What's going on, Comicbook.com? We are at San Diego Comic-Con here in our studio, and I've got none other than the legend himself, Chris Sabat.
Hi.
Welcome.
How are you? Good
Comic-Con's back.
It is back. It
right?
is crazy.
Was this your first day back, or?
This is my first time back at Comic-Con, clearly, in a couple years.
Yeah.
I have not actually been on the floor yet.
All right.
Because, one thing, I'm very excited to see it again, but I'm also not excited to be... I'm still getting used to seeing that many people all at once.
For sure, absolutely.
I have been doing some occasional conventions here and there,
right?
Since things have sort of unraveled, and of course, I live in Texas, and it's a completely different thing there. But it's nice to be back, man. Yeah. It's really, really good to be back here, and it's good to be talking to you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So I gotta ask, I've been doing some cons, but like Comic-Con has always been a big one for collectors and people going out trying to find some stuff. What does Chris do when he goes out on the floor trying to find something? What does Chris collect?
Okay. You got me there. I am always looking for old Dragon Ball manga.
All right.
I'm looking for old editions of the Dragon Ball comic book back from the day. I love old Japanese collectibles of any sort. And but if I'm being really honest, I'm a dad. I have a 7-year-old and 11-year-old. I'm honestly looking for plushies and animals and horses or whatever Q poskets and all the things that my daughters are into now.
That's awesome.
Because if I don't come home with them, I'm in trouble.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about the movie for a second. This question specifically comes from Megan, who's not here, but she is
sorely missed, by the way. I love you, but I adore Megan. I adore Megan with all my heart.
Compared to Megan,
I miss you, Megan.
Understand. Piccolo gets to be front and center.
Yeah.
In the movie, what's that like?
It's very unusual. It's been a long time since Piccolo's had this much screen time, and seriously, it's the best feeling too, because he's such a great character that I've never felt like I knew enough about.
Sure.
And this movie informs a little bit more about what Piccolo's relationship is with Gohan and with Pan, and elevates him from where he has been in the Dragon Ball Super series, which is primarily looking after Pan. There's a lot of scenes with him holding baby Pan and stuff like that. He seems to have spent a lot of time helping Gohan's family, which I gotta respect him for. But this time, things go a little bit farther. You get to see some sides of Piccolo and some shades of Piccolo that you've never seen before.
So I was going to say, the poster gives us a look at a new form for Piccolo. So what was that like, just knowing that, all right, hey, we're stepping it up a bit here?
Oh my God. It's so much. I can't even begin to explain without spoiling the movie about how much stuff happens in the period of time this movie takes place. There's so many Easter eggs and things in there for true Dragon Ball fans, old school Dragon Ball fans, Dragon Ball Z fans, the Dragon Ball Super fans, and it still maintains this really beautiful, cool, modern feel, but yet it's throwing itself back to some really interesting times in Dragon Ball and some interesting characters and scenarios we hadn't even thought about in a long time.
How overdue is the Piccolo Gohan team up?
It's as old as Dragon Ball itself, my friend. No, Gohan's been, both of them have needed to be, I don't know what they call this terminology when you're playing a board game or a video game where they have to kind of change the character stats so they can be more competitive. They certainly have needed to do that for Piccolo and Gohan for a while. And it's definitely there. And there is a moment or two, one in particular, that as a Dragon Ball fan, if you don't just burst into the most pathetic tears you've ever had, there's something literally wrong with you. It is at the same time the most incredible callback, and at the same time something fresh and brand new and something so remarkable and cool, and there's no words to describe it.
Right.
No words.
Given that, this movie does kind of shed some light on areas of the Dragon Ball universe that that I think fans have been waiting for. Do you see the franchise going in a direction more like this, doing more to put some of the the other characters into a bigger spotlight?
I think it'd be nice to see that. I think it'd be. I have no idea where the series is going. Sure. Akira Toriyama is really good at surprising us all the time. You can tell that his spirit is truly in this movie. It can be appreciated by anybody, and but it reminds me. It's interesting. It has the superhero vibe to it. It's got superhero in the name, right?
Right.
It's interesting that while it is a Piccolo and Gohan love story, not in a weird way, but like a love letter to Piccolo and Gohan would be a better way to put it. A lot of the other characters participate in this. Ones that you don't normally get to see, and they participate in a way that's not usual for Dragon Ball. You normally see, it's let's take turns, especially with Vegeta and Goku. Like, it's my turn. Don't interrupt, Kakarot. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of working together, and it's different than what we're used to, and in the best possible way. It's a wonderful, refreshing movie, and I think there are many things about it that I love as much or more than any of the previous, I don't know how many, like 30 movies there have been so far.
Right. What do you think, what do you envision the conversation being like with Piccolo and Vegeta after all is said and done, and the two of them, kind of get back together after, Vegeta and Goku have been doing their thing?
Well, actually, there's some things we learn about Vegeta and what his motivations are these days. I don't know how much you've seen of it, or if you've seen a screen or anything like that. There's some things we learn about Vegeta's motivation, and in some ways, and many of those of us who've been reading the manga or following along have seen that Vegeta has taken a progression of, perma angry to family man to some degree, like accepting his kind of humanity, to being a decent dad, to still being angry at Goku all the time, but now he's kind of moving in the direction of really trying to channel his energy and become less angry, which is fascinating to me.
Right.
And I think that's what Piccolo's MO is. Like Piccolo, every time you see Piccolo training, he's always chilling on an iceberg or chilling in the woods, and for him it's just he does all this mental training where he's sitting on a rock. And I think that he and Vegeta would kind of like, all right, I think we're cool now. I think we're cool now too. And they'd shake hands and they'd sit on a rock and for 2 or 3 days and go, are we done fighting? And they say, yes, I'm done visualizing our fight. I mean, these characters are evolving in a really fun way.
Oh, I love it. All right, I'll ask you one more question before I gotta let you go. Have you seen, now going back to convention for a second, obviously a lot of attention on Dragon Ball right now with the movie and things like that. Do you kind of see either fans bringing stuff to you to sign or whatever, kind of ebb and flow based off what is like being pushed right now versus stuff that you do with My Hero or some of the other things that you do in Dragon Ball, or is you just kind of get a cornucopia of fans bringing you stuff?
It's all over the board. I mean, the cool thing about Dragon Ball over any other license is that it's or any other thing I work on is that it's truly evergreen. It is a property that has existed through your childhood and my childhood and everybody's childhood and their kids' childhood now. And so there's this whole range of people who are sharing the kind of the joy of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super, this new kind of iteration of it, and who knows what's to come.
Right.
But there's really no way to gauge it right now. Anything anime is successful. Like One Piece, for instance, that's a show, for instance, that I didn't see as much people at conventions pre-pandemic.
Right.
But the pandemic finally gave people enough time to watch that show, and now everybody loves One Piece. It is huge right now. And there's a movie coming out for One Piece this year too.
No, yeah, you're totally right about that. I forget, there were a lot of people catching up on a lot of really good anime during the pandemic, and then now you come to a convention like this, and it's everywhere, and you love to see it. Anime
has exploded, and I'm happy to be just kind of floating around in the chaff of the explosion. So,
well, Chris, appreciate the time here, spending time with us today. For more on Comic-Con 2022, keep it locked into Comicbook.com.